So I've been driving around Hollywood a lot lately
Okay.
and seeing people carrying around signs, chanting, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, dude, what's going on? I looked into it. There's a writer's strike going on. And I have heard about rumblings of this for the past couple months, like for the past 5 months. But it's actually weird when you hear about it and then actually see it. There's like hundreds of people out in the streets, like, interrupting traffic, yada yada yada, but they're
Wow.
trying to, get their message across. And so many people are coming out supporting on Twitter. Chris Nolan, his brother John Nolan, they were actually out marching too. Very very interesting there. And I just want to get your opinion on it, man. How do you feel about the writer's strike? Do you think that is a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Why do you think that it's happening? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's about the writer's strike, man. And there's a lot of, for one, I believe the writers are completely in the right for how
facts.
they're feeling. Life is extremely expensive. It's getting more expensive just due to economic changes across the world. And so to have your job, already a job of high risk, right? A job that's really hard to enter to begin with. The barrier of entry for writing is extremely high. You get in there and you're still not financially secure. That's asinine to me. That's mind blowing. So I do completely side with them, especially with the growth of AI and how there's a lot of threats to their jobs.
yep.
I understand that, and I do empathize with them and I support them. Um, it's in a place that's the writers have a lot of leverage as they should, but it's also making the lines between duties blurred as well. There's some studios that are upset because they hired this person. This person is also a producer and a writer for their show, and even though they are boycotting on the writing side of it, even though they're protesting on the writing side of it, they still feel like your contract as a producer. So some areas of the ball you cannot drop.
Yeah.
And because there's that tension, they feel like some of the producer duties are being neglected.
Same with directors and writers too. I've been hearing.
Directors and writers too. So the hyphen, the multi-hyphen job title is what's making the lines even more blurry for studios and making it a lot more difficult for them to even function during a time like this.
Right. And I also support the writers and everything because someone broke it down perfectly on Twitter that basically if you're a staff writer on a 9 week show for 9 weeks, you get paid $45,000, right? But what that doesn't include is that's $45,000 before taxes. You got to pay your agent, you got to pay your manager, you got to pay dues, WAG dues. Then you got to pay the government. Then you got to pay your state government, and that's like what 30 to 40% right there taken off your check. So you're probably only taking home like $26,000 a year. Divide that by 12, that's like what 2,000 or something.
Right.
A little bit over 2,000 per month. And rent out here is like what 2,000 depending on where you live. And I mean, we talked about this, and you said some of that stuff is written off, and that's good. But I'm pretty sure those write-offs don't amount to being able to make an affordable living out here still.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'd love to elaborate on that. We have a lot of friends in this industry, some that are doing extremely well, and some that are doing extremely well but don't realize the tax benefits of leveraging LLC or an S Corp or a partnership LLC. It is true. Agency fees and manager fees, all commissions of the such, are write-offs. The problem with that is a lot of us need that money right now. As you know, 84% of Americans are like paycheck to paycheck, right? I believe it's more than that, but
Way more.
I believe that. I believe that too. And with that, no one's waiting for tax season the next year to roll around for them to see that money again. And depending on how this and people are fearful to take tax advice too because of economic costs up front with that. And so with that, people want their money now. 46K.
That's not a lot.
It's not much breathing room for you to. It's
Not here.
It's not much breathing room. It's definitely not in Los Angeles.
Maybe Missouri, but
in Missouri, in Missouri you can get by with that, man. But out here, it's just. Out here, it's
the buy's gonna get you.
Yeah, seriously, man, seriously. But yeah, I definitely understand every point they made, and all the points they made are completely valid.
Yeah. And another, oh my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off. And another big thing, you brought this up earlier, I'm commenting on it, the AI part. I think, yes, they want to be paid more. They want more residuals. They want more upfront money. We understand that. But I think it's the threat of AI that is also as equally as important to them as getting them a fair share of the pie when it comes to finances and money. Because their big fear is that you take this great writer like Aaron Sorkin, you take one of his scripts, you teach the AI how to write like Aaron Sorkin, and then it starts writing like Aaron Sorkin. And at that point, it's like, well, what's the point of Aaron Sorkin? You know what I mean? That's just an example. So a lot of writers are fearful of that they are now going to be outsourced or automated to AI. So now they want to put in this new contracts that says that no studio or no company, no film company can use my writing to teach AI how to write like me. But I guess my thing is like, you could put that in a contract, but how are you going to police that?
How are you going to police that or contractually, hold them to that standard?
Yeah, maybe all companies have to use the same AI system or something. They do decide to use that can be trackable, but it's like, how can you really track that?
Right.
So, and, I see why everyone, I've watched a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people who cover the industry, a lot of journalists, a lot of whatever. And they said that they are terrified of AI because, and a lot of these YouTubers I watch were former writers in the industry or in some capacity when it comes to art. They are terrified of AI because they know that it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And it's only going to get better.
I was about to say, yes, exactly. Exactly. Nothing's funny about this, but there's a part of me that's like just tickled by the how much it advanced and how quickly it's going to advance and where it's going.
Yeah.
I have a friend who happens to be a clinical psychologist, and the comedy part in it is, it's not funny. If you're a clinical psychologist, you're very well needed, and you are the real heroes. Though, I don't know if you've ever seen Big Hero 6. You ever seen that movie,
of course,
Big Hero
yeah.
6? So this clinical psychologist is concerned that her field will be in jeopardy because of AI and AI assisting you. I just keep thinking about Baymax like the whole time, man. It's just going through my head. I'm like, oh, that's dope. Like, to me, as they're telling me this, like this pensive, like it's really sad story about how they feel that their job's going to be obsolete. I'm sitting there I'm just stoked to meet Baymax. I love that movie, man. That's
a great movie.
That's my favorite Pixar movie. It's really slept on, but that's my favorite.
Is it one. Pixar?
It's Pixar.
It's Pixar? I did not know that. I thought it was just like Disney animation.
It's Pixar's 2014 release, and it everyone who saw it loved it. The question is how many people saw it, but the ones that have, they all love it. Yeah. Baymax was dope. So.
I liked it more than Frozen. Frozen was dope, but I like.
Yeah. So it's either 2014 or 2016 release. I think it was. Yeah, because 2014.
I think you're right.
I'd look into it, but yeah, I know that Frozen kind of danced around.
Frozen was like 2016, I think, but I could be wrong. But I think you're right about 2014 with.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Disney fans will comment on this, hopefully so, and tell us correctly. But yeah. So what I'm trying to get at is a lot of the AI stuff is daunting and it's scary. You and I work in the industry about likeness, so we're in some ways the last to go.
Yeah.
There's no proof about that, but I believe we're the last to go when you're in a business of likeness. Like when you're dealing with likeness is obviously, as we all know, it's an asset of its own. Like Michael Jordan is a lot of his money came from his likeness more so than playing the game.
Facts.
And so when he sold you shoes, you felt like Jordan wearing his shoes, or you bought them because they're Jordans, right?
There's literally a movie called Like Mike.
The movie called Like Mike.
Bow Wow.
Yeah. Which Mike wasn't a part of, but that movie called Like Mike, which is also AI generated. They put they used Bow Wow. No, that was AI generated. CGI generated when he was dunking on people. I was
like man, stop the cap.
And then that was the last time Bow Wow grew. But dude, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's AI. AI is daunting and scary, and part of me is excited for it. When it comes to the people who need to live and survive and make a living, as far as the Writers Guild goes, that's where the jokes go to the wayside because it's a very serious matter. People have to eat, people have to survive, and people want to do what they love. And if a machine can do what they love effortlessly, then it's like, what's the purpose for them? Any thoughts on all that?
No, I remember I was in a bar with my acting teacher last year, and he brought up something that I didn't believe until ChatGPT came out, until I saw this writer skills strike and how AI is a big component of it. He brought up the fact that eventually, and he says it's already happening, how voice actors are probably going to become obsolete because they can take your voice.
They can.
And they can manipulate it. All you got to do is just say one line. And it doesn't have to be a line about the movie. They can take your voice, they can synchronize it and put it in the character. And he's like, that's going to make voice acting obsolete.
Absolutely.
And then I remember when you told me about that collab that Drake and The Weeknd had, but it wasn't actually Drake and The Weeknd.
Heart on my sleeve. Yeah, it was huge. It scared everybody.
Yeah, because everyone thought it was them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Right.
So now a year later, I see exactly what my acting teacher was talking about, and I see exactly what he was afraid of. And he went on this rant about how it takes their creativity away. These companies don't know what they're doing. All these movies are going to be empty now. And I'm just like, I think that I didn't believe him. I thought it was like very superficial.
Yeah.
I was like, where are you getting this from, man? Until all that stuff that we just talked about happened. And I'm just like, okay, now I see why he was being that way.
Well, see, the problem, exactly, and the problem was hard on my sleeve, AI Drake and AI Weeknd. It was that we knew because of the title, and we knew that they didn't do any promo on it. We knew it wasn't their song. The problem was how willing everyone was to accept it anyways as their song.
And it did numbers.
It did numbers because people were like, we like it though.
Those labels were angry. I bet they were angry.
Oh, they were angry, man. They're more angry than the artists. I know that for a fact. Because both those artists are very well off. They're probably flattered that someone made a song like them.
Yeah.
And in their head, they're like, how can I hire this guy to keep doing that and just throw a verse?
I don't have to be. Yeah, that's.
But the labels already know they're obsolete. And labels have been obsolete since artists been able to upload their own music to iTunes and Spotify.
SoundCloud when it was a thing.
Yeah, and so labels already knew they're on ice, right? The labels' budgets have went down significantly. I've talked to executives at labels, and you can tell that they're hurting. I work a lot in this area of town that's primarily tech, and also people who run the labels, and you can see on their face that this is about a year ago. You can tell by each year I could tell it's getting worse and worse for them.
Yeah.
And so seeing something like that, something they have no control of, they can't get residuals from, it's not their likeness on it. It's not AI, Republic Records. It's not AI Universal Music. It's AI Drake and AI Weeknd, which that might build Drake and the Weeknd's brand more. We don't know, but it's very threatening if you're representing those guys.
For sure.
It's in a weird place where people are accepting. People don't care. They're accepting that, and it can get to us, man. It can get to us as well. People said, "What's going to happen when someone programs, Joe Rogan's voice, and starts making him say stuff that's more interesting than what he's currently saying, and make a podcast out of that?"
Yeah.
People can take a sample of our voice and make a whole podcast out of it, and make us say stuff we never even said. And how will they go back and verify it?
The government's gonna have to come out and probably start making legislations and laws around AI, dude. They're gonna have to at that point because that's where it's gonna get dangerous. You know what I mean? At least in my opinion. I feel like with the rise of new technology, such as like when the government came out against YouTube and said, "Hey, we want 20% of all your business revenue and all that stuff." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have these companies that are coming out where you can make money and everything, and where you can make a profit. The government's going to want a piece of that pie as well, and they're going to want to keep peace and order. And AI, while it does have its benefits, it feels like right now there's a lot of dangerous negatives that could dangerously impact certain industries and just everyday life as a whole.
Right.
If it's not checked, and I feel like it's a power that needs to be checked.
It's a power that needs to be checked.
Not right now because it's fine, but as it gets stronger and more powerful, the government's probably going to have to come out and put more sanctions or whatever on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and to tell you how bad it's going to get, if you didn't know, you probably saw articles about the father of AI quit Google recently and went on the news and told everyone how dangerous this is. It's a guy who's he's known as the father of AI, similar to how Bill Joyce as the father of the internet, and then Bill Gates kind of built on that. Well, this same position this guy holds for artificial intelligence, and he's trying to warn people where it's going to go. So he quit Google recently and did a whole press run about where this is going and why we need to get our hands on it now. And so that's a big deal.
Like control it now, like control the fire now before it gets too big.
He's saying yeah, it's on its way there. And he's saying, and he knows where it's going because he's the one who built it, and he built it, over like 22, 23 years ago. But he said this is faster than the rate we expected it to go. And so if it's already here, I can tell you the next steps will be faster than the rate it's going to go. He said within 5 years, you're looking at a beast that you can't control anymore.
Dude, I think what's crazy is that right now it's 2023. In 2030, by the time that we're like 35 or whatever, 36, it's going to be a very different world. It's going to be a very different world by the time it's 2030, the next decade or whatever.
Right. And so what this man was saying was, the biggest premise of it was, he said people will start weaponizing it very soon. So that's what he was speaking of, weaponizing it. Because you can program it to easily fire. You can program it into an actual physical shell to fire firearms. To if someone wanted to do some sort of great harm to people, they can have that operate a mass spree of any sort. AI will quickly be weaponized, and that's what he's trying to get at. So he's saying if you're seeing it reach the public as a consumer's sake, it's already at the point where it's on the brink of being weaponized. Kids are in their basement knowing how to do it, things like that. So, and that's still a 5-year journey from now. But 5 years sounds like a long time until you start high school or you start college and the college is over, and you're like, oh shit.
Who are you telling?
Yeah. So then you're like, okay, it really wasn't as long as I thought it was. So, to be optimistic, it's almost an optimistic outlook on this writer's strike happening, that people are still being heard, people are still being listened to, and people still matter. And so I really hope that we continue down this trend, hope that everyone gets their voice heard and we get our needs met now, because the slippery slope we're on with AI, your feelings matter less and less.
I agree.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug. I have a series coming out that really goes deep into my research on this and deep into other people's research on this, the progression of AI, progression of bio advancements and things like that. And once it's out, you take my take on it plus other research on it. I'd love for people to go out and receive it, check it out, and let us know how optimistic you are of the future that we're headed towards. But the great words of Kendrick Lamar, we're gonna be all right.
Exactly, we gonna be all right.
We're gonna be all right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's call this one episode. It's Black Hollywood.
Yep.